I think, or at least hope, everyone understands there are two coalitions in America. There's one that wants to criminalize and restrict abortion, and one that wants abortion to be legal and protected. The Republican Party, courtesy of Donald Trump's Supreme Court justices, overturned the federally protected right to abortion. And as Trump continues to brag about overturning Roe and putting abortion access back in the hands of the states, Republicans across the country are trying everything they can to make sure that no woman anywhere in America can have an abortion at any time, full stop. And they won't stop there. Here's what happened yesterday when Trump was asked about access to not abortion, but birth control.
Do you support any restrictions on a person's right to contraception?
Well, we're looking at that, and I'm going to have a policy on that very shortly. And I think it's something that you'll find interesting. And it's another issue that's very interesting. But you will find it, I think, very smart. I think it's a smart decision.
Well, that suggests that you may want to support some restrictions, like the morning after pill or something.
We are also, things really do have a lot to do with the states.
It is astounding. I mean, first of all, he doesn't even understand the issue well enough, care enough to grasp that saying, well, we're looking at that when it comes to access birth control is like huge news-making moment, right? And then he angrily tried to clean up his comments with an all-caps social media screed. But here's the thing. He cannot talk himself out of this one unless I think the media let him. Because here's what is happening on the ground, okay? Republicans have their sights set on the drugs mifepristone, misoprostol, which have been around for decades and are used in the majority of abortions. Yesterday, the Louisiana House, of course dominated by Republicans, passed a bill putting those pills, quote, in the same category as opioids, depressants, and other drugs that can be highly addictive. They will keep doing this everywhere they can, particularly if they win control of the entire federal government in November. Michelle Goodwin is a professor of constitutional law and global health policy at Georgetown University Law Center. She's author of Policing the Womb, Invisible Women, The Criminalization of Motherhood, and she joins me now. At some level, Professor, I think you can't read too much into an on-the-spot response from Donald Trump. We're looking into it because that's sort of rote when he's just completely out of his depth. But it seems to me you can read into what the movement that successfully got rid of abortion got rid of abortion protections wants to do around contraception and medication abortion. And where do you see that headed?
Well, in the Dobbs decision, keep in mind that Justice Clarence Thomas wrote a concurring opinion, and he put as a target contraceptive access and as well LGBTQ equality and other matters. It's worth noting that the only exception that he thought should stand in Dobbs is interracial marriage, something that is important to his own personal life. And keep in mind as well that Donald Trump appointed more federal judges than any other president, save George Washington. Biden is trying to make inroads on that. So this is not just a matter of what Donald Trump will say. Of course, he's kind of catch and kill on this, too. And that's not hyperbole in terms of the women's lives that will be affected by unwanted pregnancies, considering that the United States has the highest level of maternal mortality and maternal morbidity in all of the developed world. You're more likely to die carrying a pregnancy in the United States than in Saudi Arabia. So, it doesn't matter in some ways what Donald Trump says, because what he's already done is the dog whistle that sets all of this in motion.
Well, and there's also, now that Roe has been overturned, there's open question about, say, for instance, this sort of zombie frozen law, the Comstock Act, passed in the sort of height of a sort of Victorian panic around women's sexuality and in the 1880s, if I'm not mistaken, which basically says, look, all mailing of all contraceptive material whatsoever through the post is criminal. And there's a set of conservatives who are proposing to basically revive the law and start enforcing it on day one with no need for any kind of, law making its way through Congress.
There's a through line between America's history with slavery and racial oppression and the Comstock Law, and as well Arizona's 1864 abortion ban. Keep in mind that the parties that sought to ban abortion were white nationalists, people who expressed their deep concern and reservation about the abolition of slavery. These were individuals that believed that the United States should stay with a power majority of whiteness, and particularly in places where it looked like black people could become free. So we should never lose sight of what the original impetus were for anti-abortion laws. The Pilgrims practiced abortion, so the very idea that this has been deeply rooted in American history is not true. It was deeply rooted in a time that sought to keep slavery and fight against abolition. So that's the history associated with Comstock.
Do you think there's a tangible threat of, I mean, as legal theories, things that seemed, crazy have gotten further than one might imagine? I mean, for instance, in the federal district court, where a single right-wing judge issued a nationwide injunction for mifepristone. The threat that what is today radical becomes tomorrow sort of conservative consensus.
And this is what's so horrific about this. None of this is rooted in a civil rights methodology, a civil liberties methodology, a methodology that's true to the United States Constitution. None of that at all. In fact, it's rooted in matters of fear and a kind of cruelty that is being inflicted against women. And let's be clear, amongst the women that this is being inflicted on are amongst the poorest of women. And also, we should keep in mind children, too, girls who've been affected by this anti-abortion lawmaking, including girls that have fallen victim to incest and rape and who are now mothers at 10 and 11 years old.
Michelle Goodwin, thank you very much for your time tonight. I appreciate it.